Discussion of the education policy has seemed relatively scarce this much, but as current university students, obviously this is an issue that we are probably more interested in than many other issues. So please discuss your positions regarding our education policy.
Sure, and I'm probably going to mostly focus on higher education just because it pertains to us. Is what we've seen under this administration in 2008, and frankly this past summer at the DNC convention, President Obama has really taken on the issue of college affordability. And I think what we've seen is that he's failed. And there's no other way to describe it than he's failed on this issue. This past summer at the DNC convention, he specifically said, we will cut college affordability, we will cut college tuition in half, cut it by 50%. But yet under his administration for the last 3 to 4 years, depending on how you want to count it, here at UVA specifically, we've seen college tuition go up 30%. Increased 30% when he said we were going to decrease it by 50%. That, to me, and nationally, it's 25%. So to me, I just don't see how this president, we can frankly commend him on addressing the college affordability issue when frankly our tuition continues to skyrocket. Is what Governor Romney is proposing is that we, excuse me, I was trying to find my facts here. But basically, the gist of it is that we need to cut regulation in the federal government. There are numerous departments within, or divisions within the Department of Education that are just not running efficiently. Governor Romney has the business skills that would enable him to then go in, clean things up, cut that regulation. When you cut that regulation, you're then going to free up more money that could then be used for our higher education policies. Secondly, one of the things that Governor Romney is proposing is that we encourage states to continue to find innovative ways to promote competition within their higher education systems. Here in Virginia, we've got a great system in our community college system. That's really Virginia's strong point in trying to address that college affordability issue. I always get, and this is a personal quip, I always get frustrated when I hear people here at UVA specifically say that the state government is continuing to decrease funding to UVA, because frankly that's not true. At UVA specifically, the state government's funding to UVA has remained constant over the last decade. Instead, is what we've seen is UVA's budget skyrocket by over 1,000%. And so that claim that the state government is giving less and less money to UVA is simply not true. And so that would be Governor Romney's proposal, is that we continue to cut regulation, increase efficiency within our education system, and encouraging state governments to continue to try to find innovative ways like Virginia has done within their higher education system.
So kind of alluding to what Matt was talking about, it's true we have seen tuition costs go up these past few years. I think that has to do with a lot of extraneous factors that aren't always possible to control, and namely our state budget. I grew up in Charlottesville. When the recession hit, they had to make a lot of cuts in public schools. I went to public high school here nearby, and that's kind of been a big issue for us. But I think what the president has done is, if he saw these rising tuition costs, and he said, okay, well we need to make sure that we make college more affordable. If tuition is not going to go down, we need to make sure that students can afford to go to school. So what he did was he kept tuition rates low, or excuse me, the interest rates on student loans low. He kept them at 3.4% and kept them from going up to 6.8%. And he also expanded Pell Grants, and so now consequently 10 million more students across this country are on Pell Grants and can afford to go to school. And that's an investment in the future for young people, because as he said in his convention speech, a family should never have to put aside a college acceptance letter because they can't afford to send their kid to that school. That shouldn't happen. And I can guarantee you, as the president said before, China and Germany, these other emerging economies, aren't cutting their funding for education. They're investing in it, and so we need to do that as well. One more thing that I actually want to point out that actually isn't talked about a lot is the president has what's called a Pathways program. And that's for students who have graduated from schools here, from universities and from community colleges. What it basically states is that students who graduate from these schools are placed, and when they're competing for jobs, they're placed against other young recent graduates rather than against people who are in the middle of their careers. And that's a way to ensure that we're leveling the playing field, that we're making sure that our college graduates get jobs when they come out of school. Because oftentimes, as many people I'm sure who have recently graduated have seen, it's very difficult to just be thrown in the job market. And then I guess the final thing that I want to do is, we're not talking about healthcare, but briefly with Obamacare, one of the things that it does is that students with his student loan rate, excuse me, this doesn't have to do with Obamacare, with student loan interest rates, right? So you take out a loan, you're paying it back. Once you graduate from school, you only have to pay, use 10% of your income to pay off those student loans, and it's capped at 10%. And that's a way to make sure that people who are graduate aren't struggling financially as soon as they graduate from school.
We just heard what the Democrats' idea is to, or what President Obama's idea is to, increase lower education costs and get more people the ability to go to college. And what Obama wants to do is invest. And the Republicans say that this is a bad idea and it hasn't worked. But then what we just heard from Matt is that what Mitt Romney is going to do is cut things and then use that money to invest. And I think that it's pretty obvious that investing in granting more loans and more grants to every single student is not going to help reduce prices. Basic price theory shows that when colleges are maximizing their profits, if you give loans to students or grants to students, there will be a one-to-one increase in the price of college. If there's a college and its first price for a year, say this is 20, 30, 1,000 years ago, seeing as how high prices are, is $2,000 to go for one year of school. If the federal government says, well, you know what, that's pretty expensive, I think that we should give $1,000 to every single student, so then they'll only have to come up with $1,000. Well, what is the college going to do? It's going to raise its price to $3,000. There's going to be a one-to-one price increase, and I think that investing in college loans and grants is just going to make the problem worse and probably fuel a bubble just like what happened with the housing crisis in 2005.
Well, the Department of Education has said that women are still overwhelmingly clustered in low-wage, low-skill fields based on 2010 data. Now, that being said, it's interesting to note that many women in university and graduate school number in 50% or higher. So why are we seeing this disparity when it comes to jobs after education? Now, the Feminist Legal Forum would say that we need to rethink our model of education. We need to provide better child care. As far as jobs afterwards, we need to ensure that there's parity in income. Women who worked full-time year-round in 2010 made median annual earnings of $37,000 compared to men's $48,000. And two-thirds of working women earn less than $30,000 a year. So when it comes to feminist issues in education, we need to take that momentum that we get from women attending college and graduate schools and keep that going into the workforce and provide a model of school and work that is conducive to single-parent households, that is focused on the needs of women and not just the male model that has been handed down for the last 50 years.